Before we start this video and get into the meat of it, I want to create a short little service and memorial for this game. On Christmas Day, 2019, the Taiwanese version, the last bastion of Frontier, officially closed its doors, never to be opened again. While there is some work going on if it is possible to make private servers, the future looks very bleak and uncertain. I truly did wish I had more time with this wondrous game, because, while yes, as someone who has in fact played it, it does have its problems, what Frontier did well at, it did exceptionally. Some of the most fun I have had in my Monster history, just getting to fight so many monsters that for years I thought that I would only pay witness to, as well as discovering and realizing all the facets of this game and what it has to offer. My brain, when discovering how to go into Switch Axe's Energy Sword mode, lit like a damn Christmas tree in pride. I know not everyone likes Frontier. I realize that a lot of people on the outset have their issues with the game. And while I'm not going to go into and debate each one and their validity at the current moment, I want to ask a favor. Please, for all that Frontier has done, for all that it has brought to the table, what it has offered and risked, and how it has ultimately altered and even impacted the main series over the 12 years of its veteran lifespan, please lay down your arms, and if you will, a moment of silence and tribute. Now then, time for some unfinished business. Just as it begins, so too shall it end. For that was the prophecy ushered to me by my oracle. A tale of remastery. Anyone worth their lick of salt when it comes to my channel and what the YouTube algorithm decides to keep suggesting will know that my first video relating to Frontier was this exact topic. It was an interesting list, to say the least, having to base all my opinions off of information I could gather as well as visual knowledge unlike any other countdown you would usually see. But of course, as the old saying goes, looks can be deceiving. There's only so much that can be gathered and inferred from watching something or listening to what somebody has to say. Some things you just have to experience for yourself. And so, in commemoration of the time I've had with Frontier and to honor its legacy, I shall be doing something unheard of around my channel. A remake. Oh, but not just a by-the-book remake. Oh no, but a full-on remaster and redefining of my old list. It ain't just simply 5 monsters at the rank, or even 10, no siree, but 15. And do you know what? For the sake of opening up my options to the fullest and to show off the full potential of Frontier, anything and everything that I have fought at least once within Frontier is up for grabs. Meaning that yes, elders, birth species, origin species, and more can and certainly will make it onto this list. The path ahead may seem old and familiar, but I will warn that things have changed quite a bit since we last ran through this valley. So with all that said, are you ready to brave into that valley with me? Number 15, Bronze Spinus. Just as the main series has a franchise flagship in the form of Rathalos, so too does Frontier in the form of a Spinus, a heavily armored, poisonous, and spike-covered flying wyvern, whose name just so happens to literally mean thorn in Spanish. Real subtle. And like Rathalos, a Spinus has a variety of forms and versions to choose from. Honorary mention for the spot goes to his birth species cousin Meragnus, whose utilization of sound and target prioritization lends itself to a very unique battle. But in regards to the main trio of Espinus, bronze definitely provides the best experience. The trio all share some common traits: heavily armored, poisonous, sleeping at the beginning of a quest, and not being that big of a threat until being enraged. The differences between them lie in how they fight. Normal is adequately durable, but strong and fast when enraged. Hurl, meanwhile, is a glass cannon, having tremendous power in the form of its poison fire twisters, but low health. Bronze, meanwhile, changes it up by being charge-based, having very easy to read attacks that will hurt quite a bit if you are reckless, and being more durable than usual. The reason why I like Bronze the most out of the three is that he has the lowest potential to drag on, and gives many opportunities for punishment. The charges have nothing in the way of them, meaning that there isn't anything like moving fire tornadoes and wind press to pressure you back. And if you utilize those opportunities well, then you will be able to deal additional damage before having to evade or block in time for a charge attack. The arena gives plenty of space for players to space out Bronze and see what is coming next, and also allows the room necessary for many of his attacks. Whereas compared to normal, sometimes you wouldn't have the most adequate of spaces to avoid his charges. Despite being more bulky, the opportunity for attacking entails do a great job at ensuring that the player can respond and properly counter, making sure the fight doesn't drag for too long. It strikes a balance, so to speak, between two extremes, and it certainly makes for a great challenge at that point in high rank. Number 14. Tycoon Zamuza. One of the first challenges posed to me, Tycoon is an interesting choice to start off with. In any other monster game, he would be fought in at least Hunter rank 3, but I guess that just goes to show how Frontier is, and to be fair, early game Frontier is pitifully easy. Nevertheless, Tycoon is a pretty beloved monster by the Frontier community, and for good reason. It's got a unique, interesting design with the sickle and hammer arm, as well as a classification that we honestly don't get to see all that often, even in Monster in general. And the fight, just like its title, is multi-layered and split up into multiple phases. The first phase consists of getting off all the mud and dirt attached to him to expose the inner shell. His attacks are predictably slow, but heavy and hard-hitting if you get hit by them. The true trouble comes with the fact that breaking off the mud releases spores and dust into the air that obscure your vision, making attacks that would otherwise be easy as cake to avoid more difficult. The second phase is still much of the same, breaking his orange shell and further weakening him. Though he starts to get faster as more is slowly taken off of him, also gaining new moves. Then comes the final high-rank exclusive phase where Tycoon removes his outermost shell, revealing what he truly looks like, and everything gets thrown for a loop here. Just expecting physical attacks? BAM! Thunder! Wanted to just be slow and predictable? BAM! Now he's fast and really likes to psych you out. Expecting something simple? Psh, nah. Have him diving in and out of the Tide Island caves all Gurren Lagann. It's such a great but simple fight to get you accustomed to the variety and spice that Frontier gives, as well as providing an excellent lesson to new players. Appearances aren't everything, especially in this game where things can change drastically. It does suck, however, that this would be the last time you could fight Tycoon, as for some forsaken reason there was no Gao or G-rank version implemented for a long time. To put this into context, it would take until Z Zenith for him to finally get some endgame equivalent with his brand new Zenith form, which I never got to fight and never will. Number 13. Gyarugu. Last time I checked, according to Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Ice Age killed the dinosaurs, not made them stronger! Predating the Glavenus by a whole 2 years, and not even being the first bladed tail brute ever, Gyarugu is an interesting monster to say the least. And you see, I say interesting because compared to other brute wyverns, he doesn't really have all that new in regards to attacks for him, save for a few unique ones. Now, to many people this would be seen as a downside, and you know what? I can see why, but allow me to counter and say that it isn't the reoccurring moves that people have trouble with, but rather how they are used. After all, the Flying Wyvern and Kush Skeleton is used over and over again, yet Monster is still able to make some really new and unique monsters from them with interesting movesets. Besides, as some quotes out there say, it ain't about the individual pieces themselves, but rather the full package. And Gyaragu is able to mesh all these aspects into one monster that feels like a really solid, well-rounded Brute Wyvern. You have a traditional ABO tail swings, breaths, explosions, and combo, but you also have Uragan's roll put in there for mobility, a Plessy beam that expands for range, Devil Joe Boulder Toss for even more range, and another unique thing to Gyao, coating his tail in ice to provide protection to the tail as well as more reach with his already pretty wide tail attacks. With all of his coverage in Gyao's arsenal, he has practically every range accounted for, with the risk of getting hit by moves like the trademark Explosion combo even higher due to the increased range of the tail when frozen. I really don't know how else to explain it, but the fact that Gyao doesn't have anything too extraordinarily special compared to other brutes is exactly what makes him so unique to me. If I can word this in a way to make you understand, or try to, it ain't about all the individual Lego pieces the build is comprised of. It's how it is used. And now I'm back to missing Bionicle again. Number 12. Anaru Padasu. Never would you expect for sharks to start flying or even walking on land, but I guess that's why Sharknado is a thing after all. Anaru is a weird flying wyvern, to be honest. It is based off of a carpenter shark. It has many traits similar to that of a piscine wyvern, is able to fly around pretty well despite being shark-based, and it is even able to do the signature Diablos Roar move for some reason. What? Fuck it. I love it anyway. And this boy has plenty more surprises besides those few starting facts. From Plessy hip checks, Diablo's horn and tail sweeps, Raffian tail spins that throw up snowmen inflicting icicles, freezing the moisture in the air by flying to rain down more icicles, Ralphos flying over to create even more icicles by his wings, creating ice tornadoes through a ball like a Barioth, cutting holes through the ice for a huge torrent of water to come out of, following that up with a flying charge, and a terrifying as hell dolphin dive that is ridiculously fast. Anaru Padasu will be keeping you on your toes at all times. But if you thought all of that was already bad enough as is, wait till you hear this. Anaru, upon reaching the near-death threshold, pulls the dragon element out of his ass to augment his attacks! Who was smoking in the office to come up with this thing? And whatever it is, can I smoke it too? I don't know if it quite beats out Zamtrios in his strawberry boy mode, but damn does it come close. Number 11. Pariah Paria. Let it not be mistaken, I still love this absolute derp. Nothing has changed in regards to my feelings with Pariah Paria since the last video he was in. The only thing that has changed, however, has been the competition. Also, partially Pariah too, but it's mainly just the huge roster of monsters at my disposal. The thing is that as one of the first flagships within the Frontier line of games, Pariah can be kind of jarring to say the least. Nothing too bad or awful to the point where it ruins him completely, I'd say, but you can definitely tell his age and when he was made compared to other monsters by the pauses between attacks and some of the hitboxes. It makes the fight a little awkward in regards to attacking him and putting down meat, but that's assuming you are trying to go gun-ho into this fight in every attack. Aside from those few points I can make against Pariah, everything I said about him in the original video and more is still good. Let me tell you though, feeding him is way harder than it looks, as you have to pay very close attention to what kind of meat should be used, with some such as drugged, poisoned, and even normal looking very similar to one another. You're going to have to look hard at those shades, which may not be the easiest due to moving. Also, gotta be smart or fast with placement, and hope he doesn't change meat in the middle of a charge. That's kind of frustrating, to be honest. Once you get the minigame down though, it is a really fun and cool mechanic that, while isn't necessary to defeating him, does help give some depth. Hardcore Pariah and higher ranks is where it starts to get interesting with him, as he starts getting new attacks like a suck up into Barf Ball that inflicts the stench status plus a weird tired run effect, a new charge that he can do 3 times, new events upon becoming bloated, and more higher rarity monster drops from that good old Barf. Once again, he ain't even the hardest or most complex monster out there. It's just that Pariah offers so much personality and uniqueness in his battle that I just can't take him off this list. Number 10. Toa Tasuka Tora. Finally cracking us into the top 10 now, and I honestly didn't expect to like Toa as much as I did. Teostra Pre-World was always a nuisance to me, so the thought of having to fight an ice cousin of his that could freeze you solid just sounded like a bad time. Lo and behold though, the battle was really fun. Toa mainly takes the 4U dust clouds and reutilizes them in a different way. First having to set them up through doing dashes and movements, before then detonating the clouds, inflicting damage, and prescribing the target with Frostbite, a deadly element that consumes stamina twice as fast as Ice Bite usually would, as well as gradually lowering the stamina as if the hunter was in a cold environment without a hot drink. As if all that weren't enough, Toa also has access to a selection of powerful ice moves, such as the blast downwards that turns into a spread shot when stomped on, a breath that instantly freezes the opponent, giant glaciers to drop on your head either surrounding him or locked onto a player if they are too far away, more ice blasts, freezing claw swipes, and dashing around leaving behind freezing zigzag lines that also fill up in between, plus more. What makes this fight really fun to me is how movement-oriented Toa is, having to actually get on his ass to do the dust explosions and more, instead of sitting around like Tio and just repeatedly setting off explosions near him. The tells for him are also really good, especially in regards to the specific dashes, something which was always a problem with the older style Elders. Also, I really like the presentation in this fight and with the creature itself. The ice looks pretty for the upgraded 2nd gen style it is in. Seeing a blizzard roll around whenever he goes in rage is just badass, especially with the detail of the ice slowly climbing up your body if you stay still. And his design is able to incorporate both the harsh, cruel condition winter is known for, well with the fierce horns and mane of icicles, as well as the beauty in it because of the fur on him. No, seriously, he's got quite a bit of fur on his tail and legs, and it just looks so adorable. Truly befitting and worthy of being the king of the cold, I'd say. Number 9. Crimson Demon Fatalis. As I've iterated before in a previous countdown, I find the Fatalis trio to honestly be lacking for me. I really like their lore and what they did for a franchise, of course, but their fights have always just been to okay. Out of a trio, if I had to say what my favorite was, it would be the flaming variant from 4 Ultimate, and how funny is it that once again a version of Crimson is my favorite. While not being as perfect of a representation of the Fatalis' supernatural powers as Black Flame, who summons portals from the sky, and Ultimate White, who is Ultimate White, let's just say, what Crimson Demon lacks, he more than makes up for in regards to ambience. More than any other monster in the series, he embodies raw, carnal hatred for you and all of humanity, and the battle is just dripping in overwhelming anger. Seeing this thing crawl up the walls of a room to greet you is like witnessing the devil rising. So full of fury is this entity that his stomps and tail ruptures lava from the ground you stand on, and his breath scorches the earth. So filled with evil is this entity that he'll sadistically drag you down further into the pits of hell as you try to fruitlessly escape. And so bathed this entity is in malice that the earth's blood drips out of every pore in his body, the primordial rage below his command. Now this is a monster that I can absolutely see melting hunters and their armor to his skin. Further driving this feeling home is the depressing and hopeless music throughout, sounding at certain points almost like a mother telling her child to not cry for the oncoming apocalypse. That fulfillment to Fatalis' lore and expectations with the overwhelming hatred he commands is what makes this fight so special to me. And even disregarding all of that, the fight is still quite fun and challenging, all without having to resort to an armor mode that can deflect even white sharpness and other cheap tricks. Lots of varied and different attacks that utilize his trademark technique, all with pretty good tells and windups, giving enough time and indication for players to respond. I do wish I could have fought Ultimate White, but hey, this ain't a bad choice at all. Definitely the best for me of the Fatalis Brethren. Number 8. Rebi Diora. Ruko Diora is a pretty solid monster, all fates considering. Ruko has a pretty cool and neat mechanic with his magnetism. Ruko would have probably landed somewhere on this list if it wasn't for his older, cooler, electric-powered Spyro brother. To me, the mark of a good subspecies is a monster that still keeps the theming around the original alive, while adding in new ideas that expand upon the concept or executes it in a different manner. Don't want to stray too far from the original to a point where they are almost nothing alike, but you don't want to add in too little to make it seem like just a recolor. Rebi accomplishes the examination by still keeping the magnetism aspect around while amplifying it to new degrees, because this ain't just normal boy magnetism. This is electromagnetism, son. And this is all thanks to the new, unique elements belonging to Rebi. Thunderpole. The best way I can describe Rebi Diora is like a setup master, utilizing many of Ruko's attacks to push and pull in hunters, while also stacking on top of all of that a glowing blue orb of electricity at a single point near a hunter. You will oftentimes combine this Thunderpole with the signature Ruko Nova, stacking the pressure on nearby hunters to either get far away or to have precise movements due to both attacks having different timings. Along with all of that, he can decide whether to create a random Thunderpole or alternatively lock it onto a player's head and chase him down with a new, surprisingly long-reaching claw swipe flurry. Other tricks to worry about include him summoning material around the map for lightning to chase after and attract to, his own unique Nova where he floats himself up before coming down with electric stomp, and more. Wanna know the best thing about it all though? There's no annoying rockberry at all in this fight to worry about, making it so much easier to get in and get out. It's overall just a really fun fight that, while it doesn't match up to the difficulty of some of the later elders, is still able to stand out through his manipulation of magnetism and how it forces hunters to pay attention and be more wary with where they stand and how they approach in different ways from Ruko. Now, I've got a question. If this is Spyro, then where is Cinder?